Greetings YouTube, I'm Rob Biernacki, this is Roy Van Vliet. We run bjjconcepts.net and these are the two best submissions in Jiu Jitsu for beginners. Rear naked choke and the arm triangle. First we're going to go over the mechanical details of these techniques. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why these are the two best submissions for a beginner in Jiu Jitsu, and you may not like the reasons, but too bad. For the rear naked choke, however you got on the back, and this is actually one of the reasons that this is the best submission by far. This is like number one with a bullet by a mile. Nothing else comes close, although the arm triangle is close. But the reason it's the number one submission is because the back is a position that you have to earn in Jiu Jitsu. You're not able to just dive on a submission. You have to progressively, either from bottom, get on top, pass the guard, get into a position where somebody's turning, get on their back, or directly from the guard, like I did earlier, arm drag them, get on their back. You have to demonstrate positional control. Once here, you may end up going through a hand fighting sequence. So for instance, he may be defending, I may have to gain a motorcycle grip, peel his hands off, get to the rear naked choke position, or in transition, they may be trying to fight off the hooks or something, and you may get your arm underneath their chin. Either way, we're gonna have our arm underneath our partner's chin, and ideally, we want our elbow lined up with our partner's point of their chin. In other words, we don't want our forearm going across our partner's windpipe. This will work, but it sucks for your training partners, and if you make them angry, they won't play with you. But more so, it's inefficient, and the hallmark of good jiu-jitsu is efficiency. So if I'm having to waste a ton of energy squeezing in a way that does not maximize the pressure on either side of the veins and arteries on my partner's neck, then I'm being obviously inefficient. So lining my partner's chin up with my elbow will allow me to create this triangle shape, which every good choke is a triangle. This triangle shape allows me to place my forearm on this side, the blade of my forearm, the radial bone, on the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Allows me to place my biceps on that muscle on the other side. This is where the veins and arteries taking blood to and from the brain are concentrated, and that's what I'm trying to cut off to get my partner to go unconscious. Let's rotate a little bit here. Once I have this positioning, I want to make sure that I'm breaking my partner's posture using my head. I don't just want to keep my head or chest disconnected, because my direct rotational control, which is what I need to maintain back control, is going to be compromised. Start to turn, please. Oh crap, you're going to lose the position. So I'm keeping my chest glued to my partner's back, and I'm using my head to break my partner's posture. If you haven't watched any of our videos on alignment and how you have to deny your partner's base posture or structure or all three to be effective, check some of those out. But the idea is I'm breaking his posture, weakening him. So even if he brings his hand in to fight the choke here, if he's got good posture, he's as strong as he can be. As I break his posture, he's weaker and he's not going to be able to pull my arms away, or if I need to push his arms off, I'll be able to do so. So I break his posture first. This also creates a little gap in space that I can shoot my left arm through as I open my right arm up and intercept this V between my biceps and my forearm. I shoot my hand all the way through. I've got two corresponding triangles. One of them is going to become more and more acute in angle. I want to try to squeeze my elbows together. So rather than pushing on the head, which is far too often seen, which opens up the angles of the triangle and puts the pressure on the windpipe again, I actually want to try to get my elbows to intersect across the middle. I'm activating my forearms and my biceps as levers while I continue to use my head to drive my partner into the choke. I'm going to be tucking my heels in, pinching my knees together, and extending my legs and my back. The objective when we do this, and we mentioned efficiency earlier, the objective when we do this is that we are not just using our arms to choke someone. Like however strong your arms may be, your legs, back, core, and arms working together are going to be much stronger. So don't focus on squeezing as hard as you can. You want to focus on an isometric hold that cuts off that blood flow. And then we want to extend our partner like we're hanging them using our legs, and we want to extend our back like we're doing a deadlift. That's going to amplify the force that we're transmitting into our partner. And all of the stuff that we do in jiu-jitsu where you're struggling, like, man, why didn't that work? Why didn't that work? There are usually two reasons for it. One is either your partner was not vulnerable. In other words, you didn't break their alignment enough. You didn't take away their base, their posture, their structure. Moves only work on people who've never seen moves before. Once you kind of understand what Jiu-Jitsu is, you're going to have to take away people's proper alignment because that's what creates vulnerability. So that's one reason that a move might not work, is you're just trying to do a move on someone who knows the move and is not vulnerable to the move. The other reason that the move might not work is because you did not amplify your ability to generate force. Jiu-Jitsu is basically a game of frames and levers where we try to affect our opponent's base, posture, and structure while maximizing our own. When we maximize our own alignment, we amplify our ability to generate force. So anything that you're doing where like, man, I'm trying to choke someone, it's not quite working, it might be because you're simply not focusing enough force. And when I say focusing enough force, I don't mean tard out and squeeze harder with just your arms. I mean, try to recruit more muscle, recruit the entire kinetic chain. It allows you to be more effective. So that's the rear naked choke. The reason, again, I kind of touched on this, the reason this is the first technique that you should master and it's the best technique that you should be good at submission-wise in Jiu-Jitsu is because if you're the sort of person who's trying to skip shit, if you're like, hey, this guy's got a really good guard, oh, let me try to footlock him right away. Or, man, I'm not really great at guard retention. Let me just try to throw up an armbar. Oh, crap. You're gonna be that guy who sucks, who's like going on YouTube trying to like look up rubber guard videos rather than actually get good at the fundamental movements of Jiu-Jitsu, actually get good at guard retention. I'm not shitting on rubber guard necessarily, it's just that every guy who sucks comes, you know, rather than trying to put the time in to get good, goes and tries to find like a magic bullet unicorn technique that they can use on people, and that usually is rubber guard for whatever reason. There are lots of things that you can get good at over the course of your jiu-jitsu, but if you start with wacky crap that works from weird positions once in a while, you're gonna be terrible at jiu-jitsu for a long time. You might catch the odd white belt or blue belt here and there with stuff they hadn't seen, but as far as like actually getting good, being effective against other good people, you're massively retarding your progress. I use the word in the proper non-offensive manner there. You are retarding, you are retarding your progress when you do that. So the rear naked choke, you can only do a rear naked choke if you demonstrate control of your own body, make sure that you have good alignment, demonstrate the fact that you can control someone else, pass their guard, sweep them, you know, get to a good position, whatever. You're demonstrating progressive control, getting on the back, controlling the back, and then when you can do a rear naked choke from there, there's no chance that you, as a beginner in Jiu-Jitsu, are going to spaz out and break someone's arm by accident. So both from a perspective of demonstrating proper control and from the perspective of safety, the rear naked choke is by far the best technique. The next one is the arm triangle. Again, how you get there is going to be a consequence of you demonstrating control. It'll usually come off of a guard pass and someone's arm will be up. It'll either be up in a way where you can, if he's framing, you can disconnect and redirect that frame, changing it into a lever, or he may be turning into you, you may be able to duck underneath and go to the other side. It doesn't really matter, but you will end up with this configuration. You could be mounting someone, for instance. You could walk an underhook up from here and deflect their arm. There are all kinds of ways you can get there. However, once we get to the position, what we're trying to do is internally rotate our partner's shoulder. We want to have our biceps against that other side of the veins and arteries on the sternocleidomastoid muscle. I'm going to use my collarbone as a frame, driving his shoulder. You can see how quickly Rory taps. This is the other reason, or this is one of the reasons that the arm triangle is the second best submission, is because, again, you need to demonstrate proper control. You need to get past someone's guard. You need to get to a mount or a knee right or some kind of dominant position, and there's no joint lock involved, so you're not going to go ham and injure somebody as a beginner, so you can go as hard as you like with an arm triangle. You're not going to hurt anybody. You're going to learn to recognize this internal rotation of the shoulder and how to affect it. Internal rotation of the shoulder is by far one of the most important mechanisms in Jiu-Jitsu. The kimura, the key lock, any number of control positions are going to be affected by internal rotation. The arm bar, when you internally rotate the shoulder, is much more effective. So to learn and understand the internal rotation of the shoulder is super important. The arm triangle, if I go here and I don't internally rotate his shoulder, I can squeeze all I want. Nothing's going to happen. But by taking my collarbone, or the top part of my sort of chest, pec, shoulder area, driving it into his armpit so that his shoulder goes in there, I cut off the other side of the neck. So one side of the neck is being cut off by my biceps. as tight as I can. I want there to be no space between my biceps and his neck. I can walk my fingers across. I can break his posture to aid that. Now I'm gonna drop as low as I can. I'm gonna try to go ear to ear with him so he can't swim his arm out. If I disconnect my head, he can strengthen his frame and he can swim his arm back out of the position. So I get low and I go ear to ear. From here, I'm not flexing yet. My muscles are totally relaxed. I'm gonna be dropping my weight forward, internally rotating shoulder. And that's how powerful the technique. I haven't even connected my hands. So when we talk about the best submissions aren't necessarily the ones that seem like the coolest and you can do the fastest and finish somebody early on in the round. The best submissions for you to learn as a beginner are the ones that require you to demonstrate proper control, the ones that require you to get to a really dominant position so that the limitations that you possess as a beginner, which is you're not quite as refined in terms of your power delivery, you're not going to be able to injure somebody with these techniques. The other thing that's really important to recognize is that in Jiu Jitsu, if we're talking about self-defense, fighting, whatever, chokes are by far the ultimate weapon. You can break someone's arm and they might still fight. Hell, you can even break someone's leg and they might still fight. If you choke someone unconscious, their body is inoperable, and that's how you want to approach any combative situation. Is toughness should not enter into the equation. There are guys at the very high level, you'll see guys in competition in MMA, they'll eat a break and they'll keep going. So regardless of whether you're training for self-defense, jiu-jitsu competition, MMA, any of that sort of stuff, if you funnel your opponents into chokes, you're guaranteed to end the fight. Anything other than that is frankly a choice on your opponent's part. So for all the reasons that we've listed, and I know you may not want to hear them, but as a beginner, bear with me. It's going to take you a little bit of time to develop the sort of proper control and movement that you need, and pursuing these submissions will sort of force you to do that, and you'll become much better at jiu-jitsu in the long term.